Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237 and coming at you with the really random review. I don't think there's too many reviews of this film on YouTube, but before I get to that, I gotta do my plugs. Go over to my Thank You to 500 Subs video. It's a new Q&A. Leave your questions in the comments. I'll answer them this weekend. Go join the Room 237's Facebook page. And go check out the Room 237 Reviews Patreon. Check out the tiers. See if you're interested in being a patron. See what kind of things you can get. And if so, it'd be greatly appreciated. If not, thank you all the same. And with that, we will get to the smudge on the camera. Alright, so yeah, this is a really random review. I don't think there's too many of it on YouTube, which I understand. You can't even get this movie on DVD. I had to watch it on YouTube, and that is 1989's The Cellar. Which, if it wasn't for my childhood, I wouldn't even know this movie exists. Because I saw this movie a lot as a kid. My brother and I, from when I was 8 and he was 6 up until 12 and 10, we would get dropped off at our grandparents' house, get on and off the bus there, then our parents would pick us up in the evening. And they had I don't know what kind of cable they had. It wasn't DirecTV or anything like that. I don't know what they had, but they had these really high numbered movie channels, like 465 to 75, and we would always just check out what was on there. And one day she put it on The Cellar and left it for whatever reason. I don't know if she saw it when it came out or what. I saw it and I fell in love with this movie. Between the ages of 8 and 10, I just probably even up until I was 12, the whole time we would go there. Every time it was on, and it was on a lot, especially in the summer when we were there all day. I could never just flip through those channels and pass The Cellar without watching it. I don't know what it was about the movie that I liked so much. I don't know if it was the setting, the monster. I don't know if it was I felt I found my own horror movie, because I could tell this was not something anyone else had ever seen. I was like, okay, this is definitely not The Shining or anything like that. I know. It was directed by Kevin Tenney, who he directed Night of the Demons, the first one. He directed Witchboard, which I haven't seen. I used to own Night of the Demons. I don't know whatever happened to it. I'm not as big a fan of it as other people are. It stars a Patrick Kilpatrick, who I've seen in other stuff. I know there was a horror movie series of Sandman. I've seen clips of one of them. I've seen him in other things. He looks like the devil from The Stand, but he's not the devil from The Stand. It stars him, Chris Miller, Suzanne Savoy, Ford Rady, Lou Perriman, and this is the first time I've seen it since I was 12 years old at the oldest. I mean, maybe 11. This is a goofy ass movie. I can see why this has never been put out on DVD. The story is, okay, Patrick Kilpatrick plays this guy named Nance. Okay. I don't know what kind of name that is. Oh, and it's written by a guy named John Woodward. Doesn't even give me the budget. Released November 4th, 1989 in Japan. I'm guessing it didn't even get an American release because it doesn't say. No, it not theatrically. It was released by Southgate Video VHS, and that's where it stayed. I would like to find a way to get it on DVD if there's a way that people could do that. 85 minutes, very short. It's short, some parts feel long. But anyway, so Nance, he he's a divorced father of a 9 or 10 year old son. He has a new wife and a new baby. They live. It doesn't even say where they live. I mean, it's some New Mexico, Arizona, way out in like the desert and canyons. But his son is coming to visit him for the summer, meet his new baby sister. He moves out there because he gets a job doing, I want to say demolition. That's the only thing it hints at because he gets to use detonators and explosives. But it doesn't say, and the movie does not say where they are, what he does for a job. But first, it opens up with, you know, cool cinematography. It looks like a TV movie of like this sort of going through the landscape with this deep voiceover, like the story, the sound of the wind, and a warrior coming for the Comanches and the wind. With this cool music. The music's pretty cool. It's like a perfect blend of like 80s music and Native American music. It is like a Native American horror film because it deals with it's like a Native American monster, which they're probably I'm hoping it says here what it's called instead of just monster. But it opens up these Comanche Indians. They've trapped. There's this monster of the land. It is made up of other animals, I guess. It's like this. Take like a wolf with no fur, put it on steroids, and then just, turn it into like a deadite. And then we see this young boy grabs a spear. It's got a rabbit's foot on it, which rabbit's foot will work against it. And then, well, we see what happens to it later, but then white man comes drilling for oil. And then we jump to present day. And the acting is not the strong point in this film. I'm not going to go through every plot point, but his son Willie has a very overactive imagination. So it's already foreshadowing. Like, it's hard to. I've done so many first impression reviews. It's hard to talk about a movie that I loved as a kid, hadn't seen since. So it foreshadows, okay, it's going to be a monster movie. The kid's got an overactive imagination. Like, he likes to pretend he's slaying dragons and stuff. At least it's hinted towards it. It doesn't go that deep into it. So no one's going to believe his stories. But he also seems very skilled and, like, explosives and, like, the trade of an electrician. Like, it shows him using like a solder for like a remote control or whatever. He rigs up a few things throughout the movie. His Patrick Kilpatrick, Nance, buys this house from this guy TC, this older guy. Him and TC, or TC knows this older Native American guy, and they seem to know the past of the land. And this house, hidden behind something, there's like this ancient door that goes down to the cellar that has a lock on it. And that's where the monster is kept. And there's like a sinkhole outside that there's like a tunnel the monster can go to. It shows the monster being able to, I guess, well, I guess it does say monster of the land, but I mean, we get, it is kind of slow going. We really only get a couple scenes of, you know, the boy Willie is not very hard to convince. He finds a lizard, he names it Wart, so he treats it like a pet. They're in the kitchen where the cellar door is, and it goes by the crack, and then it gets sucks under. And he's just like, the monster in the cellar got him. You know, very quick to convince. And the tone of this movie, especially with the characters, I mean, Patrick Kilpatrick, he starts off like a very loving dad. We get the idea that, you know, he fears losing the love of Willie and him looking up to him. And also, you know, he only gets to see him for 5 weeks out of the year, every year. But that prompts him to really be really hard on him. Like I mean, there are scenes of them doing stuff together, you know, boxing and having fun. But when it comes to his imagination or his taking to, you know, like rabbit's feet, talismans, and stuff around the area, he gets really pissed and gives him shit for it. It kind of hints towards a little bit of like a Shining element, because his wife will say like, what's this place doing to you? It's making you this way. And he gets not edgy like a Rob Zombie Die Hard fan, but edgy, you know, he's on the edge a lot. And, you know, TC gives us the story of how the monster got trapped in the cellar, which was when he was a kid. You know, there's like this snotty slime that comes up from the ground, kills everything. And he was the one that barricaded it in the cellar, which, as a kid, we see his dog, and then we see like a little litter of like puppies, like little puppies. They're under a windmill for some stupid reason. And we see this ooze coming, and the next time we see them, they're all skeletons. I always thought that scene was sad as a kid. Willie, he's on the tire swing above the sinkhole, the monster's arm, because it's kind of humanoid, also will grab it. He runs to get his dad. Of course, he got so scared he pissed himself. His dad's new boss, who's like if that's the same guy, I swear to God, I don't think it is. Okay. Huh. It is. That's why I thought that. Okay. His boss, Kyle, who has got like the white shirt, he's got like the white hat. He's like the rich cowboy, like the businessman cowboy. He's LG in Chainsaw Massacre 2. Essentially the same character with less spinning. And man at the bar in the Blues Brothers. Okay. At Bob's Country Bunker, right? Okay, so that makes a hell of a lot of sense. An original film crew member on the original Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. So I thought that's why he looked familiar. He makes fun of him for wetting his pants. So then later on, Nance and Willie are doing some of the uh, destruction that they have to do. The guy makes fun of him again. He drives off. He's in a Jeep and he drives past this pond. Hits the button. This big explosion. Of course, it all goes all over him. Comes back to give him shit. Willie's like, you look like you wet your pants. And then Nance gives it back to him too. He's like, you hurt him. He gets fired on the spot. So now he's on edge about losing his job. And I mean, it's slow going, but at some point, Willie does meet up with the Native American guy. In a scene that doesn't really go anywhere. It basically just, Willie will ask him stuff and he just kind of retorts with kind of saying the same thing. Like, I don't even remember how the scene went, but they talk about stuff. TC gives him a rabbit's foot, and of course Nance gives him shit for it. And then, like, their deaths felt very Damien Omen 2. Not so much how they die, except for TC. The Native American guy gets dragged under the windmill. TC's driving down the road, and this crow comes in his truck and pecks him to death while he's driving. That's like Damien Omen 2. And his boss's son is hanging out with Willie. He falls in the sinkhole. He gets eaten. So he thinks Nance did something with his son. Willie is hell-bent that it's the monster. And then Nance goes full Jack Nicholson on him. Just like, I'll give you something to be afraid of. And he nails the cellar door shut, throws the rabbit's feet outside, and barricades the kitchen door shut. So Willie and the baby, why the baby, I have no idea, is stuck in the kitchen. Him and his wife are fighting. She almost knocks him out with a rifle. She opens the door, and then there's the cellar monster. And then that's when Nance comes back to being normal. And this scene was kind of funny. Because earlier, his boss had snuck down to the cellar from outside looking for his son because he thinks he was kidnapped in retaliation for being fired. Steps in a bear trap that Willie has set. And then the monster gets him. But after Nance goes down to kill it. And of course he fucks up, so he just takes one of the tunnels to get to this sinkhole. But when Willie and the stepmom start going down the stairs, they see the boss's body. And there's like a support beam in the foreground, kind of blocking the face, but you can tell there's like a body. Different colored shirt, I think. He was wearing white. He might have been wearing white or light blue. I don't remember. It's the same thing throughout the whole movie. And they're just like, oh my God, he's dead. Dad. Nance is just like, you can't tell. Patrick Kilpatrick is kind of more fit. And that guy's got like a gut. I don't know, I saw it's just because that support beam is there, almost like in a cartoon. They see exactly what we see. And then basically it's, he makes a spear like it was done at different times throughout the flashbacks that we've seen. Stabs it a bunch of times. He rigs his RC truck that he's played with the whole movie with explosives. The monster's in the house, and once they get it in position, they blow it up, but the monster blows up first. Like, he hits the button, we see the monster get its bad explosion effect, and then we see the house explode. And then we get, the camera going like through the landscape really fast and over the mountains and the clouds. The cool music and the story of a boy who came with the wind, and with the wind did the wind, and the monster in the wind with wind. The boy became a warrior. I want to say, they say the name of the monster a couple times. I want to say like a Mokwai or something. It is dangerously close to Mogwai. And I'm just like, okay, that thing was left in the water too goddamn long. The water in the cellar. I mean, the tone of this movie is all over the place, especially with its characters. I mean, it feels like it's trying to be a serious movie. Even the director isn't a fan of this movie. He's gone on record to say they call it a hole. He just calls it a hole. I mean, the characters themselves are sort of all over the place. I mean, Patrick Kilpatrick doesn't really have an arc as much as, okay, he's a loving, caring dad. You get he's struggling. He feels like he's missing out a lot. He's trying really hard. And then it's just, okay, he's frustrated by everything and hates everything, to full-on Jack Nicholson. It's not like this gradual... And yes, I know Jack Nicholson wasn't gradual in The Shining either, but that movie was done a hell of a lot better. The acting is pretty laughable. The story itself is pretty laughable. I mean, I like the idea of... it is like a classic monster story. Just a monster in the cellar. They could have just had that. But it was interesting to see like the Native American aspects to it. It's something you don't really see a lot of. I mean, this isn't going to be a rant because it's still a guilty pleasure. I loved this movie so much when I was a kid. I still don't know what it is that I love so much about it. I don't love it now. It's basically just a nostalgic, very guilty pleasure. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about production or anything else. I mean, the story, that's basically it. Willie knows there's a monster, tries to convince people, no one believes him because of his imagination, and then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I do like the look of the monster. I mean, it's all practical. It does move kind of wonky. It does look kind of animatronic. I mean, it doesn't look like a... it doesn't look like a Stan Winston creation by any means, but... You know, yeah, it's slow, and it really is building up to the last half hour, 15 minutes, which was what I loved the most as a kid. But I still found it to be a fun movie. I think if I hadn't watched it as much as I did as a kid, I probably would not have cared for it this time. I probably would have thought of it like I did. I was gonna say The Boogeyman, but that's fucking pushing it. But I still had fun. Yeah, it's a shitty movie. It's a dumb, silly movie. But I still had fun with it. So, that's 1989's The Cellar. Thank you for watching.